Hello everyone, it's Shel from Paper Octio Studio, and today I'm sharing with you my Pick a Stick challenge for February 2017. This is a Facebook group that I run with some other people over on Facebook. You can join. The link will be below the video in the description box, and also links to my friends' videos using the same prompts if you want to see what they did with the prompts. So I'm starting out my page using a cleanup page. This is in my, I think it's a Strathmore brand watercolor paper journal that's spiral bound. I've taped off the spirals so that I don't get gunk all over them. Finally learned to do that. Should have thought of that at the beginning. But anyway, I didn't really like the page, what was on it. It was okay, but I didn't want it to just be orange and black because it's not Halloween. So I decided to add some other colors to the page as well as some white gesso. And I'm just using fluid acrylic. This is the DecoArt brand fluids, and a key card from a hotel to apply the paint and to apply marks. It's cobalt teal hue, green gold, and cadmium orange hue. Then once that's dry, I'm ready to start my page. The first thing is to use a die cut or any cutout shape. This piece has been on my desk for a while. It is an illustration that I did for a family reunion, and they made t-shirts and bags and sweatshirts and water bottles and stuff with it. And it's been sitting on my desk. It's on a smooth white cardstock, and it's done with permanent Faber-Castell Pitt pen markers. So I decided to use it because I wanted to retain it somehow, and it's just been sitting there. It didn't seem right to throw it away. The next step was to add a piece of ephemera. Ephemera just means anything that was probably something that you would have thrown away. Tickets, posters, newspapers, things like that. Anything that you would throw away that's just trash, and you decided to keep it and use it. And what I used was the fabric from the top. It was over the top of a Mexican vanilla bottle that my mom brought me from Mexico. It was just over the top and then tied with elastic, and I just thought, well, I could use this for something, and I just did. So it's fabric, and I just glued it on there with a matte gel medium. The next step was to add polka dots. So I'm using some black marble paint from Dilutions and just using some mark making tools that I have on my desk. I tend to like circles a lot, and actually my whole page is really inspired by circles because I had the circle cut out, and then I had the circle of fabric, and then in the background the original page had circles of leftover paint. So I thought circles was a good way to go with the whole thing. So I used a inside of a tape roll, and these are like little covers that come on your paintbrushes. Just making polka dots randomly on the page using the black paint. Fun and easy thing to do, mark making. I like to do it a lot. I could probably have covered the whole thing just by using all the different little circles I have in there. And that just sits on my desk. I use it occasionally. Once I gave that a good dry, then the next step was to use a hand-cut stencil or make your own. These are ones, when I first started out mixed media and I wanted to do jelly printing, I didn't have very many stencils and I didn't have a lot of money to buy them. So I made a whole bunch of them. And what I used was that inexpensive plastic that you can buy at the dollar store for sleeves, like that you put in a 3-ring binder. You can buy like 10 of them for $1. And then I used a wood burning tool to cut them out. So I would have a drawing or something printed, and then I would put that paper underneath, put the plastic over the top, and then cut it out using the wood burning tool. Those are inexpensive. You can buy them at Walmart for like $7. Have a few different attachments. So these ones are feathers. I haven't used them in a long time. Since I use them for gel printing, I really don't clean the paint off them, so they have a lot of layers of paint. And I'm just using white gesso and a cosmetic sponge to apply feathers onto my page. The illustration has owls on it in the tree. One of our cousins that was helping to plan the reunion really, really likes owls, and she wanted owls on the logo. So I threw a couple owls in a tree because family tree, you know, and then owls. So I thought feathers seemed like a good choice to use on the page. So then I wanted to calm down the background a little bit around my feathers because they really weren't standing out that much. So I took some water to that leftover gesso, and I'm just using a paintbrush to kind of paint around areas where the background is really busy to try to calm it down a little bit. I end up using the leftover gesso at the end to calm it down even more, but at this point I was using a brush. Let's see, the next step, oh yes, color with markers. This is a marker set that I got for Christmas. You know, on Amazon they have those wish lists, and some of my family and friends wants me to make a wish list because they don't know what to get me. And so I make an art wish list, and I put this set of Spectrum Noir alcohol markers on the list. It's expensive. I'll link it below for you in the description box below so that you can see everything that I used on the page in case you need some of these things. But I got them and I haven't used them yet. Do not take my methods as any sort of a way to use alcohol markers, because what I've been meaning to do is watch some people who give you tutorials on how to use alcohol markers. Haven't done that yet, haven't had the time, so I hadn't used them. But I decided that since this is a nice smooth cardstock weight paper, it would be perfect for that. Plus it needed to be colored in, and then one of the steps was to use markers. So I was excited. So what I have seen the few times that I've watched people use them is they usually use multiple shades of the same color. So I wanted to start with kind of a turquoise teal color because I had that in the background from the original paint. And so I picked a couple markers that were that color and attempted to do what I have seen other people do, which is to blend them together. I just couldn't remember, do you start with the lightest one and move to the darkest one and then go over it with the lightest one, or do you start with the darkest one and then put the lightest one? And anyway, I couldn't really remember the technique. So I'm just basically playing with them, and I actually really like how it turned out, and I'm happy that I have these markers, and I'm going to use them some more. I do like coloring. I don't spend a lot of time doing it because it's time consuming. I do have a couple color books that people have given me, and I think that this smooth cardstock is probably the way to go, though, because it's so smooth, the markers really glide over it. I think the paper in the coloring books I have is probably going to bleed through. So hopefully it's only printed on one side. I haven't looked. But anyway, it was fun. And I did use 3 colors. I usually see them using 3 colors. And I used 3 colors on the trunk. But on the sky and the grass and the leaves, I just used 2 colors. And then on the owls, I used probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 colors. So I won't make you watch all of it, but I thought you might be interested in seeing my method. I did decide that putting the lightest color and moving to the darkest color and then going back over it with the lightest color was the proper thing to do to help it blend. And it does look more blotchy when you first put it on, and then it smooths out as it dries. So I thought that was kind of interesting. First time I've ever used them, and hadn't even heard of them until I started to watch videos on YouTube when I thought that I wanted to start doing mixed media a few years ago. So hadn't even heard of the things. Alcohol markers, what's that? I saw a really cool, I think it was Shana Conroy, Shanna or Shana. She used them on a tile and then blended them with alcohol, with like rubbing alcohol, and she did that. That's a recent video, and it was really cool. I'll see if I can find it and link it below. I want to try that, but I don't have any tiles, so I can't really do it. I'm going to have to come up with some way of doing it. But I guess they're just alcohol ink, just like the ones in the droppers. So she used it in that way. Pretty cool. So I do color in the entire thing. I think I'm going to cut some of it out. It took me a while. It's not a fast thing to color, especially when you're doing multiple colors together and you have to keep switching markers. It's takes a while. I'll try to make this into a coloring page and put it on my blog for you guys if you guys want to color this image. I know I have a scan of it. I just have to figure out how to do that. But if I do it, I'll put a link in the description box below so that you can go and print it out for yourself and color it if you're into coloring. Some of you might really enjoy that. So one of the owls, I made shades of orange, orangey, pinky, browny, rusty colors to match to pull out the oranges in the background. And then the other one I made kind of grays because gray and white type colors, I thought, with a little bit of yellow. I wasn't sure what color to color him because I couldn't really do teal or green because I'd already used those in the sky and the grass and the leaves. And so he needed to be a different color. Of course, I would have went purple except for there's no other purple on the page, so it would have looked stupid. So yeah, I just made him a real neutral gray color. And then I did add highlights to my owls using a white Posca pen. So when that was all colored, time to move on to the next step, which is to fussy cut something and attach it. I decided to cut out some leaf shapes out of jelly printed deli paper that I have in my color box here. Green colors, green gold, same type of colors as in the background, and put those around as if they're coming out of the tree, making a composition basically. So just cutting those out with some sharp scissors. I'll put that on the list, sharp scissors. I'll give you a link to the Cutter Bees, which are my favorite scissors. I have some titanium ones that I really like, so I'll put a link to those. So then I attach these to the page using a fluid matte medium. I know we've talked about this lots of times, but for you guys who still are confused about mediums, I like to use a gel medium to put on heavy things or things that I don't think will stick, like the fabric. And I like to use fluid medium when it is a very lightweight, like a tissue, a text, or in this case, a deli paper, which has been printed with acrylic. It works really well to put it on with a fluid medium. So that's how I work it. And the differences are that you might be using a matte, a satin, or a glossy. In this case, I used all matte. If I were to be using something shiny or shimmery that I wanted to retain that, sparkliness, I would use a gloss or a satin. So, and there's even ones that have glitter in them and stuff like that for fun projects where you want to do shimmery stuff. So the next step was to add mountains or trees, and I decided to use the wild card. This year, when we made up our new sticks for the year, we added a wild card stick that you could use to replace any of the steps in the challenge if you don't like it. And that mountain and trees has come up so many times in the last year. I think we did it like 3 or 4 times. And obviously I already have a tree, so what am I going to do? I guess I could have put mountains, but I decided to replace it with the wild card, which is to add a piece of fabric. So I'm using some turquoise teal colored burlap fabric from Canvas Corp brands that I have, and it didn't, obviously the page didn't need this. It was just the step required that I put on fabric, so I did. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't have done it otherwise, but it actually turned out really cool looking once I added the white gesso at the end. So it adds texture and visual interest, and I used one that coordinated with the colors, so worked out fine. Sometimes when you're doing challenge with Sticks of Fate, which ours are completely randomly drawn in our challenge, you do get something that you're like, what should I do? What should I do? So step 8 was to use something another artist gave you. So I have this little plastic box of things that people have sent me in Happy Mail or in swaps. Just lots of little things, and that was some stickers that I actually know who sent them to me, amazingly. It was Eva LeVay Arts channel. Eva, she sent me these this pack of stickers, a little sheet of stickers that happened to have the perfect colors to match my project. So I put those on. The next step was to use something old, and I was like, okay, what do I have that's old? Well, this piece of dictionary paper is old. I got it off Etsy in a pack with a lot of different pieces of, just randomly torn out pages from books and dictionaries and things like that. I ordered it because I wanted some Latin and to use for a project that I was making for someone, the Latin cow, which is on my channel. You might be able to find it, or I might link it for you. The serendipity of this, as I was looking at the page, I'm like, well, what am I going to make out of this piece of paper? What should I do? Should I tear it into strips? What? Should I make it a circle and try to stick it on? But everything was, the background was already done. And amazingly and randomly, it had the word feather. It was a dictionary page with the definition of feather. I was like, wow, how lucky did I get? So I cut out the definition of feather and put it on there. I thought I was feeling, the mixed media Sticks of Fate, they were like really being kind there in that case. Because I only had the one page, and the chances of it actually having something I could use were so slim, and then for it to have the definition of feather, I was like, wow. Wow. So the last step was to add black marker or pen. So I'm using my black Posca pen to do sketchy, quick lines around the feathers and around the leaves that I put on there with the deli paper, so that they balance out with the black line around the circle and all the other black in the background. It really needed that, so I was very happy that that was the last step, and it came up as the last step instead of being the first step. Sometimes add black marker or pen is the first thing, and you're like, but that's the challenge. That's the reason that our challenge is a challenge, because it's random and you have to work with what you get, and it really stretches your creativity, and it's really fun. So I hope that you all will use the link in the description box below to come join our challenge and give it a try, because it's fun and you should do that. So then I used, like I told you I was going to do the extra white gesso on my palette to use with my finger to kind of white out and push back some of that busyness from the original background, to really help the things that I put on to be the visual interest and the focal points. Sometimes you just have to get your fingers in the paint. And then I added a black pen border around the edges using a straight edge and still with my black marker Posca pen. And I think that is the end. So if you enjoyed this video, please remember to like, subscribe, share, comment, all those things. And that's it for me. Thanks. Bye-bye.